Let's Get Tryin is a podcast that challenges us to live real and authentic lives, no matter the journey we're on, from life to faith to even mental health. Host Aaron Lee presents the importance of never giving up. So let's get Tryin with Aaron Lee.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Let's Get Tryin. I hope that you're having an absolutely wonderful day. I know that it's so easy for us to get bogged down by the negative things that are happening in the world, in our lives. I know that I do that. And you know what? I'm going to be positive today. I'm choosing to be positive today because I tend to be a negative guy. And that's just something I need to work on. But you know what? It's going to be a great day. I hope that you're saying the exact same thing. Actually, once you say it with me, it's going to be a great day. Anyway, hey, I'm excited about this episode, but before we jump into the details of this episode, I wanted to just remind you, tell you about what we would love for you to do to help connect with this community, with this podcast, and what we're trying to achieve here. So if you wouldn't mind, there's a couple ways you can do this. One, head over to Facebook. I don't know if you've heard of it, but facebook.com, you can head over there, and facebook.com and search for Let's Get Tryin podcast. Be sure to like the page. Be sure to start engaging with the posts and the comments and all that jazz, as well as you can find us on Instagram. Also over at aarontlee.com, you can find show notes, blog posts, even some music resources. But the idea is to help bring community, to bring opportunity for us to kind of live this journey together, live this Let's Get Tryin journey together. And we have to engage for that to actually happen. And so by doing that, you're creating community. By engaging in those things, you're creating community. Another way you can do that is by clicking the follow button on your podcast. And also you can share this podcast with your friends and family. And that would be a huge help to me. All right, in this episode, I have my good friend, Sam Woodbury, also known as Sam Wilco, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But we talk in this episode about what I just said, about how community and how that is so important. But we also talk about how it's good in that community to have people that you can be vulnerable with and talk about those things, and also how to reflect God's glory in a performance-driven world. And so just be excited about this episode because I'm telling you, it's a good one. So let's head over to this conversation with my good friend, Sam Wilco. What's up, everybody? I have my good friend, Sam Wilco, with me today. He has been one of my closest friends over the past couple years. We've grown closer as we've gotten to know each other. And man, I am so blessed to have you on this episode of the podcast. You journey with me on an everyday basis, so it's really awesome to be able to share your story, share what's been going on in your life, and hopefully connect with some people that maybe need to hear what you have to say. And also, I'm sure there's some The Voice fans out there. Sam was a contestant on season 18 of The Voice, so I feel like I'm a celebrity because I know a celebrity. But man, I've got to hear about your time on The Voice. Why don't you start off by sharing what it was like to be a contestant on NBC's The Voice?
Man, it was a really awesome experience. I got to meet a lot of really cool people and learn a lot of things about myself as a singer and a person. It really reminded me of the Army. Been in Army, well, just retired from the Army, but it reminded me of that. When we go to schools or like basic training, you meet all these different people from different places and you come together and you're around a common thing, and it's a brotherhood, sisterhood that's formed. So those people are my family now. So it's awesome.
Yeah. So whose team were you on?
I was on Team Nick.
Team Nick. And tell people, what was it like to we're talking about Nick Jonas here. So I mean, he's a heartthrob, guys. Yeah. He's a heartthrob. So what was it like? I mean, getting to meet him and get, some coaching from him. Yeah. What was that like?
I thought that was really awesome. Nick was a really cool guy. He was really straightforward for the most part. He listened really well. The guidance he gave us, I thought was really good. Him and his brothers, because we got to meet his brothers as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, like he was different than you would think. He was really genuine. That's if
Yeah.
I could say anything, it felt like he was really, really genuine. So I really like that about him.
That's awesome because, I think in the world today, we don't usually see people that are in a celebrity status as being genuine or whatever. Cause there's just a lot of stuff that goes along with that. So that's cool to hear that
Yeah.
he was like that. So your name is actually Sam Woodbury, but you
Mhm.
go by Sam Wilco when it comes
Mhm.
to your music and different other avenues. So tell people why Sam Wilco? What is so important about that change in your name?
Well, this whole journey of the voice and kind of like I said, finding myself. I was feeling before I went onto the show that uh, my life was switching to where music was becoming the forerunner, and I basically wanted to know, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do with my life, do you want me to be a worship pastor or you want me to be a music artist?
Mm,
And that whole thing kind of led to the birth of Samuel Wilco. I feel like God is calling me to do something with my voice, and that's to sing and to reach as many people as I can with that. And so, if God is calling me, then my name is my answer, Samuel Wilco. The Wilco is a acronym from the Army that means will comply. So that's where it comes from.
that's awesome, man. And you know what has really been cool for me as someone that gets to walk with you on a daily basis. I've seen you go from being coming here or coming to the area that we're from
Mhm.
with the military to then being a part of our church as a volunteer.
Mhm.
And then you're on The Voice, and now you're on staff at the church with me
Yeah.
as a co-laborer in what we get to do for ministry and through worship. And so it's really cool to see how you've leaned into that and God's using you in that way, man. So uh super super thankful for you. I hope you know that.
Thank you,
I
bro.
try to tell you, but you're one of my really close friends, and I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
All right, man. So, if you could sum up, I've asked this question before, but if you could sum up 2020 in one sentence, what would it be?
Life changing.
All right. You're going to have to expand upon that a little bit.
Literally for everybody, it was life changing. But for me, 2020 was my last year in the armed forces.
Mm,
I had, since I was a little boy, always thought that I was going to have my own art company.
hmm
And I actually uh, opened my own art company and it was doing well. And so I was thinking, okay, even though I was feeling called to music, that I would just do both of them. But towards the beginning of or the end of 2020, um, I started kind of getting that feeling like uh, God wanted me to do more than just both of them at the same time.
Sure.
And the story of Elijah and Elisha, it just kept coming over and over again. And I told you about that. Um, and so I just got this really strong feeling like I was supposed to let my company go and
Mm.
just focus on the music. And so that's what I did. So in making that decision, it's been literally life changing for me.
Dude, that's so cool. And you know, I assume for most people like 2020 was bad, but for
Mm.
you actually was kind of a positive experience. You
Mhm.
had a lot of change, a lot of new things, but it was all good things, right? All things that you
Mostly.
mostly okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to assume, being stuck in your house forever was
Correct.
fun, but
No.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know Sam as an incredibly optimistic person, like one of the most optimistic people I know. And I'm not, which is probably why we hang out, because opposites attract. Because I'm more of a pessimist. But man, how do you maintain that? How do you do that, especially in this past year that's felt like chaos and division has just ran rampant?
I think God makes all of us special in different ways, right? And pessimist or optimist, it's like he uses that for his glory, like he's using your podcast for his glory. And so for me, I don't know, just ever since I was a little boy, I've always been a go-getter. Like I set my mind on something, I'm just going to do that. And I believe that is going to happen. And so since I've become a man, I've seen God like do incredible things in my life. So I really, really trust in God, even when I'm scared. I still trust in him. I may question him sometimes, but I still trust him, and I just keep going because I believe what he says to me. And that's what keeps me optimistic.
You know, what you said there about pessimist and optimist is all used for God's glory.
Mhm.
As a pessimist, I always view myself in a negative light because that's kind of what the way a pessimist thinks.
Mhm.
But like what you're saying is that actually God allows a pessimist to be used for his kingdom, and it's not a negative thing. It's a good thing,
Mhm. Mhm.
as well and as equal to an optimist who is used for God's kingdom. That's a
Exactly.
really cool concept because I think a lot of us, especially those of us in my boat, feel like, okay, well, we're the downers of the world, and we can't be used sometimes
Mhm.
because we get caught up in that pessimistic mindset. That doesn't mean we should live in that. I think sometimes it's a healthy thing to kind of have realistic views of life, and that's more of a realist than it is a pessimist. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I think what you're saying is really good because it just reminds us that no matter how different we are, God still uses us,
Exactly.
and that's really really powerful. All right, so tell me, Sam, what's been difficult for you over the last year? We've talked about some of the changes that have happened, the good things, but man, like if you could just nail down something that's been difficult in your life, let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, I think the most difficult thing for me was going from having this plan that seemed to be working of how I was going to take care of my family after the army to pretty much just being up in the air and knowing but not knowing, because the way I thought it was going to work out is that I would have gotten the staff job a lot sooner. but
COVID happened.
but COVID happened. And so it stopped everything. And I had already let my company go. And so I'm just like, and it's just getting closer and closer and closer to my retirement date. And I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen,
Mm.
you know? So that was a pretty scary time. But I think what helped me through that was my wife, who is usually a realist and a pessimist. um, but during that time, God was just like doing something with her that where she would usually be worrying, she just didn't. She just believed, which boosted my belief again. So
Yeah, that's good. Tell me, you said something, knowing but not knowing.
mhm.
How, practically, how do you know but not know?
Uh, well, because of the way, again, that like my faith has grown and the way that I believe, if God is leading me towards something,
Mm.
then I know that it's going to happen. I just don't know how it's going to happen. So music was the thing. I know that it's him leading me towards it. And so it's just maybe this is not the route that he wants us to go. He doesn't completely say it specifically all the time.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So knowing that the path I'm on is the right path, but not knowing how it works out. And that's the scary part.
That's really good because I think we think if we know, we should also know how.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're saying is they're two separate things. Knowing is probably that confident faith that we have, but the how that's the hard part because it's the tangible, it's the things that we see and expect and want to see happen. So that's really good, man. I honestly haven't ever thought about it that way because I always feel like it's you either know or you don't know,
Right.
and you're drawing that line. That's good. That's good. All right. So how and where have you seen God working in this season of your life? I mean, obviously through what we've been talking about, it's pretty clear. There's some good reminders in there. But how have you seen Him working in your life?
Well, I've definitely seen him use me through the music stuff, and that's just continually to grow. But I also get a chance because I was on The Voice to connect with people who weren't necessarily on my season.
Mm.
And because I've done that, I've been able to walk with some of my fellow Voice family through some really tough times as they've tried to navigate through what was happening to their lives in 2020. So that was really cool. On top of that, I would say the next greatest thing would be, or the greatest thing that happened in the year, besides all the music, besides all of that, is seeing my wife get stronger in her faith. Like that, that is a big deal for me because she's like a private person. And so I don't necessarily get to see what's happening all the time.
Yeah.
But like, when God changes your heart, stuff just starts changing and you notice it, And so, seeing her grow closer to God, that was probably like the best thing that happened throughout the year for me.
Let's go back to that first part you said about the people you've been able to connect to, from different seasons to also, in a new position that you're in, you're getting to meet new people in different campuses that you're a part of at Southeast, the church that we work for. How important is community, man? Like to you, like how important is that?
It's everything to me. I feel like, again, God puts certain things in us that we're just born with. And one of those things for me is the concept of team. I don't know where it came from other than God, but it's always been something that I really value. Like I don't like singing by myself. I would prefer to sing with somebody. I love harmony versus one voice. I love listening to the congregation sing versus any of us on stage singing.
Yeah.
So it's just that unity thing, like that's something that's deeply ingrained in me. So community is extremely important.
Well, and I know I've heard you say this, we've talked about this many times, like from your military career, you learned the value of how important a team is. And in a way, all believers are part of a team, right? All with the same mission, hopefully. And why I'm bringing this up is because I feel like it's so important for us to remind people, and I have to remind myself because I'm an introvert, like how much we need one another, because it's easy to kind of get caught up in isolation, and we've all lived in isolation for, a year in some way or another. But I just see so much value in community, and I've heard you talk about that a lot, and it's been a huge influence to me because I know in my head that it's the right thing, but sometimes my pride or insecurity or fears keep me from that community, and there's huge value in having that.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So, what this podcast is all about. You know that like, Let's Get Tryin is just this whole idea of not giving up. But I need us to really hammer in on why it's important to live real and be authentic. So tell me, man, why do you see that as being an important thing for us in our lives?
I think the number one reason that is an important thing for us in our lives is it connects with the last question about community. The things that we go through in our lives and how we handle those things can change somebody else's life and help them either not go through it or help them see how to get through it. Because a lot of times we want to go around whatever the issue is instead of going through it. And I kind of learned that right before I met my wife. I had gone through a divorce, and I was like really seeking God the year before I met her. And so in doing that, like it was really tough, but I learned a lot about trusting God. I learned a lot about allowing other people to kind of like speak into your life. And I mean, he showed me a lot of things, and the things that he showed me, I've been able to use through my pain and my hurt to help save 4 other marriages where I couldn't save my own. you know? And so, yeah, what we face and how we deal with it, I think honestly is for each other, not necessarily specifically for us all the time.
Well, that's really good, man. I hope you're okay with me bringing this up. I came in one morning, we were working in the same place. I came in one morning, you were having a rough day.
Mm-hmm.
And, I remember us just kind of talking and honestly, I remember having to say to you, "Are you all right, man?" and you being like, "Not really." And then you just, unloaded it all. But before that, you were on guard. And then I remember on the flip side, maybe not as deep, but you know that in me too. And there's
Mhm.
been several times where you'll just come up to me, knowing what I'm feeling, and say, "Hey, brother, I just want you to know I love you
Mhm.
and I'm here for you." Like,
Mhm.
I think that is such you could have stayed in your comfort zone and been like, "I'm just going to stay away from him while he's having a rough day and not deal with that." But what you did was you invited me to feel, one, loved, and
Mhm.
two, that I could be real and honest with someone and not be judged. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
So that's so good because man, my passion for this, and it scares me to think that we would fake our way through life,
Mhm.
and that's really dangerous. It's
It
really
is.
dangerous.
It is.
We start believing a lot of lies about ourselves. Um, yeah. So, like, with the whole vulnerability piece, the whole, authenticity piece. Okay, as a person that's on the stage, a person
Mhm.
that leads worship at a church, but has also been on a stage like in the secular world,
Mhm.
how do you still be authentic when eyes are on you like that? How do you still live a real life? How do you be authentic in that?
Well, for me, it goes everything for me, especially in that world, ties back to God. And so the way it ties back to God for me is I don't think I could actually do anything that I do on any stage without him being present.
Mm,
So if I get caught up in what anybody is saying or any compliments or anything like that or whatever, then I would start to look at myself as if I'm doing something.
mm,
And if I start looking at myself, then the minute that I fail, then I think I don't have that strength anymore. And so it starts to spiral, you know.
mhm,
But because I don't look at myself, I I don't believe for a minute that I could do anything if he wasn't with me every single time I step on that stage. And so no matter what stage I'm on, I'm not there for anybody or anything else other than him. And trying to show people that joy again is it's a way to connect the community in whatever room I'm in.
mm,
I'm trying to get them to see that you can also connect with the Father. And when you connect with him, something really great happens, you
mm.
know?
Yeah. Sam, I admire you because I feel like you're the same person off the stage as you are on the stage.
Thank you.
And I can't say that about every person I've ever been in contact that has that
Mm,
that has those opportunities. And so I think that's really living real and being authentic is you're the same person no matter what you're doing. If you're over here singing your kids asleep or you're on a stage leading thousands of people,
mm,
you have the same genuine heart. And I think that's one of the things I love about you, bro, because I really believe that that's your heart and that's important to you.
thank you.
With all that, I had someone ask me this not too long ago, and they said, and this is for anybody that maybe is a pastor or is in like a performance driven world. They said, how do I answer people when they come up and compliment me?
Mm.
I don't want it to sound like I'm arrogant and be like, "Oh, I know it was amazing," or say something to the effect of, "Oh, it was terrible. I didn't do that great," or then something to the effect of, whatever it may be. How do you respond to people that are encouraging you without taking the glory from the Lord, I guess is maybe a good way to sum it up.
That's the only way to know how is to say, I just say thank you. Like I appreciate it. And I just try to do everything I can to express to people, like, I can't do what you see. I cannot do without him. It does not happen if he's not in it. So you see whatever I'm doing, you're actually seeing what he's doing.
Yeah.
So I just try to point them back to him,
Yeah. And I love that because I wish we could change the perception of those things and remind people that's not what you're seeing is not meant to be a show. It's meant to be the glory of God and his reflection in us. So that's great, man. All right. So in what ways do you try and live out this let's get trying mindset, this never giving up mindset in your everyday life?
I set goals that I think are attainable goals. That's some of the other things that they kind of taught us in the Army. And I heard this in a sermon once. I try not to necessarily, and me and you've walked through this, especially after my time with The Voice, I try not to think about the result. And I just think about the process of it. And I just keep going through the process of it. I let God handle the results, because when I start trying to think it should end like this, or I should get this from this particular thing, and it doesn't happen, that's when that doubt and that fear and anxiety and all of that stuff can kind of creep in and like overload me again, when I think I know what should be, instead of just going through the plan that he's already laid out, doing that next right thing and letting him be in charge of the end result.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good, man. I tend to feel like it's easy to, well, we get caught up in the destination, essentially is what you're saying. And it's easy for all of us to do that, but I love that because the Lord's going to be the one that guides it. And we have to just trust him in that. Yeah. So good. So good. All right. So I want to think that maybe there's some people out there that feel defeated today. Maybe they're driving to work and they don't want to go to work, or they just left the hospital with a sick family member, or whatever it may be, man. What encouragement would you give to someone who might be feeling defeated today?
I think the most encouraging thing I could tell you, again, it is rooted in my faith. And it was something that I heard this week. This is the most recent and most encouraging thing that I've heard. And it was in a sermon, and it was about Gideon getting ready to go against the armies of the Midianites and stuff like that, right? And so when the angel of the Lord came and told him that you're a mighty warrior, and he's calling him all this, Gideon is like, wait a minute, like me? But the point that the preacher made is he said, basically, God was telling him, you have everything you need. So no matter how defeated you feel, no matter how short you feel, or if you feel like things are just going completely chaotic and there's no way for you to deal with it, I promise you, you have everything that you need. You just have to believe that and tap into that. And so I find myself saying that to myself a lot when I'm getting ready to step on stage, or if I'm about to do something that I think is important, or maybe it's not super important for somebody else, but it's something that I need strength in. And all I just say to myself over and over again is, you have everything you need. You have everything you need, not because it's within me, but because God has given me everything I need to accomplish whatever it is that he has set before me.
Yeah, man. Everything you need. I love that. Like it's like you feel like you went to a job site and you don't have, or you think you didn't bring the tools, but you actually have everything you need with you.
Right.
Yeah, that's good, man. Well, Sam, as always, dude, I hope you know how much I love you. You are an incredible inspiration to a lot of people, including myself. I'm very grateful that I get to do life with you on a regular basis. We get to go eat Thai food every now and then. Inside joke. One last story though, before we head out. Okay. And this is, Sam's a humble guy. So I just want to clear this up before I do this. So mind you, I am the pastor, worship pastor at one of our campuses, our Southeast campuses. And Sam comes on the scene, and I mean, he's a big deal, guys. You gotta understand, he's a big deal. Me and Sam are standing out in our lobby area, and this woman comes out. He knows where I'm going with this. This woman comes out. She doesn't even acknowledge me, doesn't even act like I'm even there. We both just been on stage leading. And she comes over and she puts her hand on Sam and she goes, I just wanted to touch you. I just wanted to touch you. So I always just go over to Sam and touch his arm and say, man, I just want to touch you. His face is red. He's embarrassed by it. Well, for those of you, that's another inside joke for us. But man, that's Sam's heart was, he reflected God's glory and all that, even when sometimes it's awkward, mostly for me. But no, man, I'm so grateful for you, man. Thanks for jumping on this episode of the podcast with me.
My pleasure, bro.
All right, dude. I love so much what Sam was saying there about community and how important that is for our everyday lives. Now, I have people like Sam in my life. I have people like my good friend Brian in my life. But you may be thinking, well, I wish I had that, but I don't have it. I promise you that there's someone around you in your life that would love to walk in this journey with you. The thing is sometimes we just have to get out of our comfort zone and look for those people. It could be a sibling, it could be a friend, it could be a coworker. But the reality is that we're meant to do this life together, not alone. And when we bring that stuff out of the darkness and into the light, real amazing things can happen. So be sure to just look for those people in your own life. Look for ways that you can invite those conversations in someone else. Maybe someone else needs for you to be that person to them. But as always, don't do this alone. Don't do life alone. It's not meant to be that way. God didn't create us that way. I love so much what we got to talk about in this episode. I pray that it's been a blessing to you. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, be sure to go over to Facebook, like our page, share posts, comment on them. Also subscribe to the podcast, share it with your friends and family, all that fun stuff. And also head over to aarontlee.com where you can find more content. But as always, none of this stuff matters. It's not about a podcast. It's not about me. It's not about anything like that. It's about living a real and authentic life. And whatever you're facing today, remember that you gotta keep going. You gotta keep trying. And there's people right beside of you that are gonna walk with you through it. And more importantly, you have the Lord on your side, who is willing to just grab your hand and pick you up in those times where you feel broken and lost. So don't feel alone, because you're not. And that's why we do this. That's why we have this podcast. So let's go and let's get trying.